time ago. We said, look back on our channel. We did a story. Is Stephen A. Smith too hard on Bronny James? Um, Maybe they saw that story. Maybe LeBron felt the same way, and he confronted Stephen A. Smith during a basketball game. Uh, if you're not living under a rock, you've probably seen the footage. Um, Stephen A. Smith, basically, let's break it down to its basic elements. Uh, Stephen A. Smith had a 6'9", 260-pound guy in his face, and that's pretty intimidating. Um, let's try to find some footage of it, or whatever. I'll try to find something and show you guys before the next segment. Simply, thank you guys for tuning in to WD3 and the Hill Report News Break. Simply, what it boils down to is Bronny James. Uh, Maybe we shouldn't call him Bronny James anymore. It's such a little kid name. LeBron James Jr. is an NBA player. Uh, Definitely, if I was an NBA player, I would think it would be pretty cool to get the same criticism from the same commentators as the Kobe Bryants and the Kevin Durant's and things like that. That's pretty cool. So I wouldn't have too much trouble with Stephen A. Smith having a comment on my play. But I would say in the world, there is no right and wrong. There's action and consequences, right? Stephen A. Smith, you can say what you want to say. LeBron James, you can confront him if you want to confront him. But Stephen A. Smith saying what he said, it made him get confronted. That was a consequence, right? So if he didn't say anything about Bronny James wouldn't have the full rights as an NBA player, and Stephen A. Smith wouldn't have got confronted. It's kind of milquetoast. But he did criticized Bronny James' play, and LeBron James confronted him about it. Now, LeBron James confronting him, a lot of people saying that's not right, that's not right. Maybe it's not right, but at the same time, action and consequences. LeBron James can stop in the he could stop in the middle of a free throw and get in Stephen A. Smith's face, but will he get suspended? Um, will he have to fake an injury because he really got suspended? Anything like that could happen. It basically boils down the whole Stephen A. Smith, Bronny James thing really boils down to uh, don't do the action if you're not willing to stand up to the consequences. If you're willing to stand up to the consequences, the world is yours. The gamut of actions that you could take in this world are infinite. But that's if you can stand up to the consequences. That's why we have guys like George W. Bush who goes and takes out a whole country on a lie of WMDs when there's none found. Uh, he got away with it. He's sitting in his home right now in Crawford, Texas, getting old, being honored as a president, right? But if we held him accountable and put him in jail, then he probably wouldn't do that anymore, and the next politicians wouldn't do that anymore. So I think that everybody was right in this circumstance. It's just a matter of what consequences are going to follow each action. And a lot of people gauge right and wrong based on avoiding a negative consequence. Well, if Martin Luther King wanted to avoid a negative consequence, then he would have never marched. And if he didn't march, then he would have never been able to stand up to segregation and definitely mistreatment in our society. So sometimes you got to do something that people think is wrong if you can stand up to the consequences. LeBron James, kudos to you for standing up to your son. LeBron James, you kind of made your son look like a little wimp by standing up for him. Stephen A. Smith, hey man, you know, you got treated like a king. Like LeBron James got in your face. Now you're viral and you got $100 million contract. Chill out, bro. Stop crying about it. What do you think about this? Think about it. 6'9", towering over Stephen A. Smith like Godzilla. Stephen A. Smith crapped his pants. A lot of people are just feeling bad because Stephen A. Smith crapped his pants and he's a little guy, and LeBron James is absolutely massive. So he punked a little guy. I don't know. I heard some people saying LeBron wasn't doing that to Isaiah Stewart. Uh, LeBron wasn't doing that to this guy and that guy who made Doka. Yeah, but he did it to Stephen A. Smith, and Stephen A. He came the next day and cried on the show over it. Like, come on, bro, you weren't wrong. You just did not want to stand up to the consequences. LeBron James, you weren't wrong. You just were willing to stand up to the consequences of your actions. You might have got suspended. You might have got reprimanded by your team. You might have gotten castigated in the press, but you did the action anyways to stand up for your son, maybe stand up for yourself, a little selfish ego. Um, but Stephen A. Smith soiled his pants. That's the problem. What's up, you guys? It's WD3 Hill Report News Break. Some reason I can't pull up footage of the Godzilla rolling up on freaking Tiny Lister, but it was bad. Stephen A. That's a grown man, soiling his pants, crying about it. Like, dude, $100 million, you shouldn't worry about nobody. You should make sure you carry something to defend yourself. You talk a lot of crap. Um, it's a part of your job. You probably ought to think like, man, take a note from Charlemagne the God or some of these other guys who took blowback from what they said on their show. Sometimes it gets out from the YouTube streets, it gets into the real streets. And there's only action and consequences. That is what this whole situation is about. I do think LeBron had to fake an injury to avoid a suspension and embarrassment over it. Also, Stephen A, bro, man, just next time say, hey, I'm just doing my job, and just try to hope you get snuck like Chris Rock or something. But anyways, action and consequences, guys, what this is all about. Stand up for your actions. Be willing to take the consequences. If you can't take the consequences, don't do the action. Period, point blank. Son or no son.